Hi Petra, Ali here. I have got your concepts, third concepts here that I've been working on after your feedback and comments. So I thought I would just talk through some of those changes from your feedback and show you the model as it is now and with those changes incorporated. So hopefully we're nearly there. It's looking really nice. It's coming together really nicely. So yeah, let me just sort of show you what I've done here. So going from your comments, I mean, we sort of changed this driveway parking area, and I think you were pleased with that. So I'm also pleased with that new kind of curve that we've got going on there. We've got room for quite a few more vehicles. And I've put in here the kind of boxwood hedging that we talked about to sort of edge all of this quite beautifully. And then I've been working on playing with this kind of idea that you talked about of a kind of more formal area out front here with the quadrant plan, which, as you say, is very sort of traditional. It moves away from that cottagey kind of vibe, so I've taken the archways out. And what I was worried about, that I sort of confirmed with you, that I was worried about creating too large an area of planting borders, because already from what is already essentially just all grass at the moment, you've got quite a big area here of planting and this sweep of planting. You're going to have a lot more planting around the house and around the back. So I was a little bit concerned about filling all of this with planting, because as you can see, the area here is pretty close to the entire width of your house. So it's quite a huge area. So I've gone with your suggestion of putting in an outer circle of a higher kind of hedgerow, and I want to sort of show you that and see how you feel. I like how it feels. It's going to do the job nicely of sort of screening and partially kind of screening the view of the rest of the garden, so that there is an element of kind of surprise, if you like. Your visitors will definitely know that this is the entrance, and it's quite formal. We'll have a beautiful kind of flowering tree, like a cherry or something, in the middle here. There's room to kind of take a wander around, and then they will definitely know that this is then the entrance from this larger circle to the smaller circle that you already have. And it kind of mirrors what's already there, so it makes sense to me to do that. And then it just kind of formalizes that a little bit more. So I'm liking how that works. To make it kind of work in terms of the overall design, I've sort of followed this curve of the hedge line with the border line. So, I just want to soften so that it's not all just formal hedging. I think it would be nice to have sort of planting area peeking over the hedges here as you first come in. And just this little bit of planting kind of round there will really soften that hedges, and also it will give you beautiful views kind of out the frontage of your house as well, from these front windows and from your kitchen area looking out, and it will formalise this view down. So we've got the shed here for the mower that we'd already put in the last one. This is going to be surrounded by sort of trees and shrubs, so that it's going to be a little bit hidden as you come in. We could actually continue this hedge down right the way down if you want to block this off entirely. So that's up to you. If you'd like to take the hedge in all the way down, let me know on that. But yeah, what I've done is kind of formalised this. I've created some straight lines, but then I've kind of kicked off some curves so that it all flows. And then I take your point about here, we were talking about possibly a seating area. I just thought it would be a little bit odd, because we've got this beautiful bench around here that I would like to have inbuilt in like a hardwood timber around like a tree seat, and this area of paving here. So if you were to sit here and there was also a bench here, I just thought that was a little bit conflicting. So yeah, this little island bed here, what I've done is to take the pathway out and just kind of formalise that a little bit more as well. We're going to end up with quite a lot of pathways around your garden, so let's just zoom out a little bit and show you the overall effect here. So essentially what we've created is quite a lot more hard areas of hard paving all the way around here. We've extended this out, we've extended all of this around where the pool will go. So this is all quite formal and quite hard paving. You know, we sort of talk about hard and soft landscaping. So we've got quite a large area now of hard landscaping, which is why I'm very, very keen to soften it as much as I can with all this planting area around it. One of my pet hates is to just have, you know, large areas of patio straight onto lawn. So I think we need to envelop and enclose as much as possible. So I'm pleased with that. And then my concern was that if we have too many hard paved pathways going all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, we might be just losing the kind of natural effect of your garden and the sort of, you know, the sort of more parky feel with all the trees and woodland planting and what have you. So you can see the different colour tone here for this path. I've reinstated the path so that it goes all the way around, and I've connected it up to this front pathway here. But I think this will work if we choose the right materials. So the colour scheme here that I've gone with is to sort of match in with your stone, obviously, that you already have here, and we'll match that in, and this will be the same or similar kind of tones of stone work. But where I've swapped to that softer colour, this I think needs to be just a sort of gravel-like surface, or a material that we use here often is called hogging. It's like a self-binding gravel, a very fine gravel that gets watered and rolled so that it creates quite a nice firm surface to walk on, but it's not hard concrete or stone paving, it's a softer material. So that's what I'm suggesting for all of these pathways, and especially now that we're going all the way round, I think that's something that I'm really quite keen to get your approval on. So if you're happy with that and the overall design, then yeah, this kind of works. I've left it as turf in between the hedgerows so that we haven't got the huge planting areas. And just to cross over here, if you wanted to come down this way and around, this makes more of a feature here, but I've put little stepping stones across to here rather than a very formal, another solid line of connected sort of pathways. I was a little bit worried that we were ending up with too many pathways and too much hard landscaping. So that's all really, but I've wanted to mix up the materials a little bit here, and this was my suggestion. I don't know if you can see if I just zoom in, that we'd have perhaps a little change of direction, a little change of materials for the gazebo area. So we've got this kind of stonework and then perhaps a brick pathway around here, just to sort of change it up a little bit there. So I've taken on board your comment about the fire pit, so I've included that here. Yeah, the only reason I wanted, you know, to just double check that with you is because I know that this pool area isn't immediate, that this is for later, perhaps, you know, down the line. But it sort of occurred to me that, oh my goodness, we've got, you know, seating area here. You'd perhaps sit out and dine here. I know that you've got sort of barbecue area, outdoor oven here for dining, and then I was conscious that we'd put in this seating area, and I thought if we're creating another one, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 areas. You know, where do you choose where to go and sit? I mean, you're lucky you've got this huge garden, so you've got all these choices. And I know I had put seating out the front, and you'd said you didn't think that you would sort of necessarily sit out front, so maybe that's okay. So and you know, maybe because this isn't going to exist for a little while here, this is further down the line, that for your immediate kind of first phase, maybe it's just creating this little fire pit area. Again, I wanted to keep some area of planting around it. I think if we were to pave all the way up to this retaining wall, it would be a mistake, personally. I think, if you take a step back and just remember the sort of golden rule proportions of the amount of space that's taken up with hard landscaping versus soft landscaping, we want a really good balance. And I've always liked to sort of enclose areas with planting, as I've said before. So hopefully this is okay. This is a nice kind of compromise. I've got still some of my planting and you've got your fire pit. So I hope that works for you. And also I take your point that you wanted still perhaps some kind of walkway here. The reason I changed this around, this was more of an open area before with the soccer field here, which I realised was too small. So it kind of makes sense to go out there. But now that I've put the pool house here, I thought this would be a nice place to change, or you could have an outdoor shower perhaps, or have your sun loungers and cushions and things stored in here. It didn't make sense to me to have a path going around that, but I like your idea of having it through these trees. Let me just hide this so that you can see there. So just hide that tree a minute. The tree trunk is around here, but just a little woodland style path going to the play area is a sneaky route through here. Is fine by me, that works. So I'm happy with that. It just tucks in there nicely. For the spiral idea, the reason I'd put that into a spiral is I liked the idea of kind of enclosing that play area off a little bit. I mean, the trampoline isn't the most beautiful thing to look at, and I thought if you've got this beautiful poolside area with sun lounges and sitting out having cocktails and having a lovely time, you don't want to be looking straight at that. And I liked the idea of wrapping it around in this spiral shape. Let's just bob down a minute. I'm going to spin this on an orbit. So it's a little bit weird, this software. It doesn't show the undulating ground, but I've raised up this hedge here so that you can sort of see. Yeah, so if you're sitting here by the pool, it would be nice to just have nice greenery enclosing that, if you see, and then this would have planting going around it as well, and that trampoline would be hidden away. So that was my thinking there. In fact, you can raise that up. Obviously these hedgerows, can be as tall or as small as you'd like them to go, and depending on which species we go for all these hedges, we need to kind of make some decisions on whether this is just a little, didn't mean to do that, whether this is just a little boxwood hedge that's low, that gives the sense of enclosure, or if we want to, grow up a big tall, like hornbeam or hedge, beech hedge, which would be my preference, I think, just to keep this area kind of more hidden. I better be careful because I'm touching things I don't want to touch with this. Okay, let's go back to a pointer, that's safer. Right, here we go. Okay, so let me go back to an overhead view. So in light of that, it was quite a thing really that you chose the vegetable garden, and one of the shapes that you really liked was the spiral. So what I've done is put that pathway back in, as I said, all the way around. Before it was going to a gazebo, so it had purpose. So when we moved the gazebo, I took the pathway out, but there's no reason why we can't have it going all the way around. Just like I said before, we have to be mindful of the materials choices. But yeah, this is the growing area that I'd left for you for vegetable growing. So I've marked that in more as a repeat of the spiral pattern. So you'd had that example in the groundbreaking food gardens book, and that's fine. I'll leave the exact growing positions of everything to you, but just as an indication of how you can use that space, by all means you can plant up in this spiral, and what I've done here is to put the pathway going around, and in. And then I've done a kind of combination of two of those gardens. So the spiral one had some hedging and trees in it in the book. I've kind of done an amalgamation of the spiral and the kind of divided quarter, what did they call it, the pizza one. So this is a little bit of both, because you can come in round in a spiral, and then I've created, you know, room in the middle that can be divided up, and I've just added in a few different textures just to show, you know, how you could plant this up. And of course you can do swathes of different vegetables in here, you know, different root vegetables in different swathes, and this can be surrounded by the sort of more normal shrub planting around it. And also I thought it would be nice to put in a little bit of hedging for protection as well. So let's bob down here. I've sort of suggested, I mean, this is entirely up to you. You could have a little bit of hedging on this side. You could even, if you wanted to, have another little row of hedging around this curve. So it's kind of like, you know, a little enclosed area for your grown, and they'd be really protected and in full sun. So that's marvellous. I thought that's, you know, that's a great idea and plenty big enough. And like you say, this is for your root vegetables, and tomatoes and things, and your herbs can go almost definitely out on the front there. So on this view you can see I've put now some sort of fencing in. Oh, I've got the plant floating up in the sky there. I must move that down. I don't know what that's doing there. You can see I've got the a sort of picket fence going round that can be, you know, a simple post and rail fence with chicken wire there, and you can choose whether to gate it here or here or wherever, you know, wherever you would like your entrance in, you know, depending on where exactly you place your trees for the orchard. But what a beautiful place for your chickens. They've got their chicken coop there. They've got this lovely big open area, which can be rough grass, and fenced off there. Plenty of protection with all these trees around from your herds of deer and what have you. And oh, and I've put the drainage channel in that you asked for last time as well, so that's room for that there. Okay, so let's go back to plan view and see if I've covered everything off from your comments. So yes, you wanted the walkway to the shed, perhaps the pathway going round. I've sort of reverted back to a slightly different styling here, so I take your point on that. A little bob down here to show you how that's going to work. So yeah, you'll have you know, a nice low hedge here with planting behind it, and you can have a beautiful big tree here as a focal point as we come in for something more attractive. And then as you walk around the pathway, there's room here for the generator planted in front of that, and then the little pathway to the gazebo area. Okay, so with all these new hedges going in, like I said before, it depends on how you want to play it with heights of things. This is a little bit skewed, I know, because the model is flat. So when I come to raise and lower areas, it raises and lowers whole areas. So, you know, I know that this isn't completely right, obviously, but it gives us a much better idea than just a completely flat drawing. So I wanted to show you this with these areas, because essentially what has happened is that by enlarging the feature here with the hedging on a bigger scale, obviously that affects slightly the kind of gradients issue. By keeping it small, as I had previously, I was just going to create this flat area, and then the ground was just going to slope up gradually, because you've got a gradual slope here, and then you've obviously got a steeper slope down here on this side. And it's not a problem, it's not a big concern, but I just wanted to point out to you that we will need to think more about terracing with this bigger plan, because when you have a formal design like this, it only makes sense to change levels along the formal lines. I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well, but I'm going to bob down again to show you what I mean. So because we've got a gradual slope from kind of here up to here, I need to take account of that slope. And because we've gone for a formal design, I can't kind of lose the slope just with like with a gradual bank or planting bed. I've got these formal hedgings now. So it makes sense to me to make more of a kind of little terrace step in the design where it makes sense to do it. So let's just spin this around and I'll show you my suggestion. Here we go. Okay, so my suggestion here is that, and this is up for debate, so tell me what your preference would be, but my suggestion here would be to keep the first hedge that we get to sort of fairly low here so that you can see over. Then you can have this higher one as you get into, it's almost like a maze. It would be like it's a very strong look, you know. It kind of draws you in through this. You've got this lower hedge at the front and a higher one. I like it a lot. And then as we come through into the garden, you know, we'll go back to the lower sort of box hedging around the design. But this is where it makes sense to me to actually create the formal terrace so that you end up with this kind of split level effect as we go up from the lower ground here up here. So it makes sense to me to match in the kind of stone perhaps of the frontage of your house. And I don't think it's much of a gradient that we have to take care of, but we would need a kind of to formalise that along the formal lines here. So does that make sense? We'd have this kind of terraced effect, which is really rather beautiful and very Italian actually, this kind of effect. And then again, as we go up through the garden to the main front door, we can step it up for the pathway and step it again where those hedge lines cut through. I hope I'm sort of making that clear. I realise this model is a little bit confusing because it's not showing all the contours of the landscape. But there we have it. I'm going to just show you the alternative if we were to go high on the first hedge. So if we were to bring these up high, it kind of creates quite a barrier. Like so. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are. To me, it felt a little bit too contained and enclosed, and we end up with kind of hedging, high hedging, very close together here. So personally, that wasn't quite working for me, so that's why I decided to go back to a kind of lower hedge line here and here. Okay, I might not be lining these up perfectly, but there. Okay. So yeah, that in sort of design, in terms of design, that feels more balanced for me. It feels much more balanced, and it would still give you that sense of that sort of sense of not being able to quite see it all, that you won't be able to quite see the whole garden with these high hedgings here. And also remember that we've got, oh, it's trying to catch up with me now because I'm doing too many things at once. Here we go. Also remember that we've got this other area of high hedging around this curve, which kind of hides that end of the garden. So we're kind of, you know, we've got little peep through, and we can sort of, you know, and obviously this will be beautiful planting. We've got a big mass of planting here, which is going to be tall. We've got the big tree here. And the big trees, you know, obviously at the moment are just ground symbols. So I can work on this model a little bit more to really see what it's like with full 3D effect. But as I keep saying, it's very frustrating because it doesn't show the real contours. This, I know, is a much steeper slope down here, but these will be curved, graded steps going down here at a higher gradient down there. So I think I've gone through everything. Let me know your thoughts. Let me go back to the overall view here for you. Probably the best bet now, if you don't mind, is to print out this overall plan as you have done before, and just mark on with pen, just mark on your comments, and perhaps if you could just mark on which hedges you like high and low, that would, and what kind of heights you were thinking for sort of that finer detail. It is nice to hear your voice and hear your videos, but I'm finding it quite difficult to keep going through them and making sure that I've caught all the points. So I've sort of written notes from the video. It would be easier to almost have like an email and a checklist of just at this stage now that we're into the final bits, that fire pit, yes, I've included, not cottagey, yes, I've removed the arches, we've got a walkway to the shed, yes, done, and the tree seat area, I've gone for stepping stones, so let me know your thoughts on that. Pathway all the way round, yes, I've done that. Classic design of hedges at the front, screen off the front. Yeah, okay, so I think we're almost there. So yeah, thanks again, Petra, for your comments on the last one. This is design 3, so hopefully we're nearly there to go to completion. Okay, I look forward to your kind of feedback or approval, and we'll go from there. Thanks, bye.